Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel you'll find product reviews on camera gear, photographic gear, audio equipment and that kind of stuff. Now today we're taking a look at the Samsung NX1 28 megapixel APS-C mirrorless camera. Now they don't manufacture this anymore. In fact, they don't manufacture any cameras anymore. They've completely pulled out of the photographic market, which is a tremendous pity because this particular camera is superb. It is really, really good. It's quirky, I definitely say that, and it's quite a long learning curve, quite a steep learning curve on the way it works. And I'll give you a few examples in a moment. But the results it produces is excellent. It's a 28 megapixel APS-C sensor, so it is going to produce some really nice images. It's a Samsung design sensor, and I think it competes very, very well with the likes of the Sony a6500 and many of the other APS-C type cameras. The Canon 80D, is it 8070D? I haven't got Canon, so I can't really comment on that. Although people do say the Canon Colorscience is absolutely superb. I don't know about that because I don't use Canon, but I can tell you the images that come off this sensor are very, very nice, and I'm absolutely delighted with them. I've taken just quite a few snaps in and around, you know, the house, the garden, or whatever, and yeah, I can't see any. You won't be able to see how clearly that is, but you can blow these images up to quite a large extent. You can crop them really, really tightly if you needed to, and people do that. Obviously, that's the idea, you know, of having a large sensor to be able to crop it tighter. So the actual sensor on this then, as I say, is very good. But I bought this camera specifically for video. I didn't buy it for stills. And I'd read and I'd seen online that the video that comes off this camera is absolutely superb. Although there are a few caveats to do with the video and with the photographs. Samsung were leaps ahead of the competition at the time. And they still would have been had they carried on. But obviously the format wasn't supported. They didn't sell the quantities they needed to sell. So obviously they pulled out the market. It's got an articulating screen, which is lovely. It's an AMOLED screen. Samsung know how to make screens, obviously, because of being one of the top brands in mobile phones. They know how to make a really nice touch screen, and that is one of the features that I love about this camera over and above the Sonys. Is you just swipe to get through your images. That's all video content on there. So if I took a quick snap, let's put it in shutter priority, yeah, take a quick snap. The viewfinder is gorgeous as well. It's much better, I think, than the Sony viewfinders. So once you've taken a quick snap, and there's a really quick snap, you just double click the image, you can pan around, double click to go out, or you can do that. Isn't that absolutely wonderful? You know, when you're out taking photographs, that's just wonderful. It's bliss. It's absolutely bliss. And there's many other things you can do. You can touch touch the focus, so you can pick your focus point. Well, I say that I haven't got it set up for doing that. I've got it turned off. But you could normally touch the focus when it's turned on. But yeah, you can see the focus points is on a wide setting. But yeah. Very, very nifty, very smart. Now, the photographs that come off it are excellent, but the video that comes off it, for 4K video, it's actually got UHD 4K, which is what I would class as your standard 4K TV mode, but it's also got cinema 4K, which I found staggering on a camera at this price point, or when it was at this price point. So it features that. It's got slow motion. I haven't done any slow motion with it yet, but I do intend to do that. Now, the quirky things about it are really just two, which is frustrating, and even nowadays still frustrating. The video it records is in H.265, which is at the time this camera was released, nobody was supporting the H.265 codec. It's a next step up really from the H.264 MP4 codec that we're all used to using these days. The GH4, the Sony cameras, they're pretty much all of them are using the H.264 codec. This is a H.265 codec, which is a higher compression, but it's apparently a lot better and it's a lot higher quality. Now, I would say the quality is really good. As to whether it's a lot better, it's difficult to say. But the big downside with it, nothing supports it. I can't load it straight into my iMac, any of my Macs, and view the content and edit it. And with the other cameras, I can load it straight into Final Cut Pro, and you're away. You know, it will load straight into this. With this codec, it doesn't. Final Cut Pro 10 doesn't support it. Now, there are rumours that it is going to support H.265 because that's a format that Apple are moving towards. So hopefully Final Cut 10 will support this natively. I can take the card out of here and whack it straight into Final Cut 10. At the moment, I have to convert the files, which is no massive deal, but it's just another step. I have to go into a program, I'm not even sure what it's called. What is it? Program called Video Converter Utilities. Or to view the files, if I just want to view them on here, I've downloaded a program called DivX, and that seems pretty good. That'll view them. So at least I can view them, but my laptop isn't powerful enough to view them. So that's the big downside with the video content on here. That applies to whether you're filming 1080 or whether you're filming 4K. It uses that same codec. It's a shame that Samsung didn't put the MP4 codec on there, the H.264 codec, as an alternative. So, but they didn't. Now, the other downside is the raw files that this produces is obviously Samsung's own variety, but again, it isn't supported. You can't see that on a. If I look at a raw file on here, if we go into NX1. The Mac you can't see them, so I have to import every single image into either Lightroom or a new program that I'm using, which is Photo Director, to view them, which is fine because they all need editing, but it would be nice to be able to see thumbnails of the actual images. You can't do that. Where with the Sony RAW files or even the Panasonic RAW files, you know, any of the others, you know, if we look at the A7R2, you can see the RAW files, and they are Sony RAW files. You can physically see them. So that's disappointing. So those two aspects of it are very disappointing. And the other disappointing thing, let's get these out of the way, is the HDMI out. What a weird setup that is. Now, I've tried connecting it to my 4K Atomos Ninja Flame, and you get a picture, it outputs the picture, but no audio. I can't fathom that out. I get a 4K image, but no audio. And I've tried connecting it to me two Atomos HD recorders, nothing. But in the menu, it's so convoluted how you have to set up the HDMI, and the whole menu structure is somewhat weird. It's like with zebras. It doesn't call them zebras to check exposure level. I think, what do they call it? Overexposure guide or something. Something weird like. So it has taken me quite a long time to fathom out this menu and get my head around how they word it and some of the things. It's very much like the yeah. What else? It's like with the slow motion. The slow motion apparently is really good. I've not played with that yet, but to set it up for doing slow motion, you have to go into two menus and you have to go backwards and forwards. It's really weird, really weird. I like the control dials. It's got a lockable switch on the top so you don't accidentally knock it. That is really good. So you've got all your control dials there. Your ISO, white balance, autofocus, and metering is on this control here. And I've had a number of people say on YouTube, well, that's a bit awkward because it's on the wrong side of the camera, and quite honestly it is, but you get used to it. And it's actually, you know, it's not bad once you're used to it. It's like anything, I guess, once you get used to how a camera works. One of the things I really do love about this camera, it's got an exposure lock button. So say for example, I'm not demonstrating it too well, but that's the exposure you want, lock it off, and the exposure won't move. No matter where the camera points, that exposure is going to stay constant. Now that's great when you're filming interviews, because you can lock the exposure on the person's face and just one click of a button and it will stay locked. So you can leave it on auto exposure, but it's not going to move. Even if the sun or the light is moving behind the person, that ain't going to move. I love that, just one click of a button. You don't have to hold it in. The other control that I like is the autofocus lock, which is fantastic. So I will be using this a great deal. So say for example we focused on that lens there, you hit that, let's get that lens in focus. Ain't working, right. So get that lens in focus, hit that button, that locks it on there, and you can't see, but then nothing else, it won't move a focus point, it ain't going to hunt, it will just lock it on that one person. And I really like that, although I've not explained that terribly well. But so those two functions, exposure lock and the autofocus lock, is really helpful. I'm going to actually now set this up to do the filming, so you can actually see what the quality is like. I'm very pleased with this camera. It's got a top dial. I tend not to use that. I'm so used to not having one with my Sonys, but I tend not to use that. So so there we go. We're going to set up the this camera now, so you can actually see what the quality of it is like, and we'll be right back. Now I'm actually filming this session with the NX1, so you kind of get a feel as to the quality from the NX1 compared to the quality from the Sonys. Now, I've been using the Sonys for a long time now, about a year. I really love the A6500, which is what the previous scene was filmed with, and I was using the A7R2, which is up there, as my cutaway camera. This is now purely being filmed on the Samsung NX1. I've left most of the stuff in auto, but it's on shutter priority, obviously for 1/50th of a second. It's got a microphone jack and it's got a headphone jack. So I've plugged my Sony radio mic into the camera, monitored it with the headphones. I'm hoping the audio is coming out fine. It's got a good audio level control. The other kind of bizarre thing with the way this camera works is that there isn't actually on the command dial, there actually isn't a filming mode, which is really odd. But once you get your head around it, it actually is really intuitive. So what you have to do is set up one of the preset buttons, I've got mine on the right hand control dial, hit that and it goes into video standby mode. But the downside to it all is that it takes the settings that you originally had for taking photographs. So if you was in aperture priority and you think, oh, I want to get a quick shot of that, whatever it might be, you go into video mode, well, that'll be an aperture priority. It's a real shame that they couldn't have separated the two. So you could have the settings on video separate to the settings for photographs, but that isn't the case. Luckily, most of what I do is video, so I don't have a problem with that. Set it to shutter priority and away you go. But it took me a little while to work that out. It's not really obvious. The whole camera isn't obvious, if that makes sense. It's kind of designed by geeks, I guess, and technology gurus, but they haven't really thought it through. But the sad thing is, they're not going to be able to now because they can't. They've pulled out the market, so they're not going to be doing an NX1 Mark II or an NX1 Mark III, which is kind of disappointing because I love the camera. I really do. The lens range is very limited. I mean, as I said earlier, I've got 3 lenses. I've got the Samsung 50 to 200. Also with Samsung, they've got some of their lenses have got this eye function facility where you can set preset commands on from the lens. I guess things like ISO, shutter speed, aperture, whatever. These lenses obviously are a cheaper range, or I don't know if they're cheaper ones, but they don't have that. It's got image stabilization and they got autofocus, manual focus. Likewise, this lens doesn't have the eye function command on it. That is the 30mm one, yeah, f1 to f2 30mm. But it's a really nice lens. It's really compact and I really like it. It produces really nice images. So there we go. That's my ramblings on the Samsung NX1. You can pick them up relatively good value on eBay. But there's not that many about, because presumably because there weren't that many sold in the first place. So but there we go. That's my ramblings on the Samsung NX1. Great camera, a bit quirky, in fact very quirky. Would I get rid of my Sonys? No, I wouldn't get rid of my Sonys. I love my Sonys and they're really, really good. Would I get rid of a Samsung? Probably not either, because I just I like it. Although it is quirky, I like it. This is left on autofocus face detect, so I don't know how well it's handling me moving my head about, but you know, we shall see. The only downside now, I've got to convert this footage before I can actually edit it, which is a bit of a downside, but hey ho. So there we go. That's the Samsung NX1. I do hope you enjoy my reviews and you like my channel. If you do, please subscribe, tell all your friends and hit the like button. And keep your eyes out for the next review that'll be coming up. Probably be the GoPro gimbal that I bought from my GoPro. So keep your eye out for that, and I'll see you next time. Cheers for now. Bye.